Hello, everybody. I'm John Fawcett in for Lou Dobbs on today's episode of The Great America Show. Well, it was an eventful weekend and one we'd like to forget as soon as possible. A failed assassination attempt on President Trump, and missing the president by, mere millimeters. Could have been a bad casualty for America and for the Republican Party. Just about 2 years ago, we had a guest who we have on the show very normally now, a man by the name of Russ, former senior NSA intel analyst. We had him reach out to us, and he was worried. He was worried that President Trump had this coming to him, and he tried to reach out to Secret Service agent. He tried to blow the whistle on it. I should say Russ is also a whistleblower, and he tried to blow the whistle on it, and to no avail was he able to alert the Secret Service about what he feared could be happening, which has now become a grim reality. Russ, it's great to have you with us. I want to roll for the audience. Just back in May, you blowing the whistle once again for what you thought was coming. Take a listen.
I mean, I know these things because I know how we conduct assassinations to make it look like, something, funky or something innocent happened, like perhaps what just happened with the president of Iran. But so I know, that's how I knew. And as soon as I saw that raid on Mar-a-Lago, that just tripped my trigger. And I tried to contact the Secret Service agent who's a retired Secret Service agent, and he just blew me off. Because I wanted to very subtly try to get the message to President Trump that there's a real concern here. So the Secret Service guy blows me off, and I was trying to do it very subtly. And then I'm like, that's when I contacted you, Lou, and said, instead of a whisper, perhaps I'm going to have to let this out with a trumpet. And here we are with trumpets.
Well, interestingly to me, this is your views and your judgments on the possibilities have been proved to be highly accurate, and to think it all began with this Joe Biden, the puppet of these Marxist-STEM masters, and all of the acolytes of Barack Obama filling out the important jobs in this administration. These people are evil. And by the way, Chris Wray now he's got to be fired. This is outrageous what he's done. Everything we feared is true. And I'm not sure where we go from here, frankly, except as quickly as possible to November 5th and get the fool and all of his Marxist-Dem minions out of that White House, out of the Pentagon, out of every national security agency in the country as quickly as possible, including the intelligence agencies.
That was 2 months ago, Russ, almost to the day. More truer words couldn't be spoken from you or Lou. Who's responsible for this? Where do we go from here? What was missed? Your take on what happened over the weekend.
Well, it's one of two issues, or probabilities, I should say. Either we're dealing with just a rabid dog who went out there and decided to the lone wolf scenario, which can still happen. But this guy, I think, is a registered Republican. He doesn't have a history and a social history of ranting and raving against Republicans and against that President Trump is going to turn us into some sort of monarchy and that sort of thing. So this guy seems to have been off everyone's radar. And then all of a sudden he turns up, climbing up a roof to get a vantage point to take shots at our former president. The Secret Service is just plain incompetent, because you would think they're smart enough to cover any vantage point from an easy shot with a rifle that had a line of shot, a line of sight into where the president was speaking. So, this is either a conglomeration of incompetence and a lone wolf, or it could very easily be something much worse than that. And that could be the possibility that our deep state and possibly the intelligence community and the FBI and the Department of Injustice is literally involved in making sure President Trump does never sees the White House again, and they'll go to the extreme of putting him 6 feet into the ground to do it.
You know, I've been around President Trump many times at his private residences in Bedminster, New Jersey, in Mar-a-Lago, and when he was at the White House and other places. And since he's left office, it's sort of, the time seeing him, it's sort of been lackadaisy. And, I've mentioned to people before, it seems as if like anything goes. Now, I don't care if we're in his private home at Mar-a-Lago or in Bedminster. The president, former president, and soon to be 47th president, hopefully, I don't feel that he was protected, in the interviews, we've done with the president, not nearly. Now, back at the White House, he always had a sharpshooter on the roof. I've been to Trump rallies. I've covered Trump rallies. There's sharpshooters everywhere. And, it seems 100, we were talking before the interview, 150 yards away. You tell me that's not a far shot. But the most puzzling thing to me is that you had spectators. A spectator did an interview with BBC network after, and they said they saw this man climbing the roof. They saw the man climbing the roof. They alerted the local police. They alerted Secret Service. Now we get reports that one local police officer actually climbed the roof, encountered the shooter. The shooter pointed his rifle at this man, and this man went right back down the ladder. Does that make any sense to you whatsoever?
I haven't heard that story. This was a police officer who climbed up and sees it.
I'll read you the reporting. One local police officer climbed the roof and encountered Crooks, who was the shooter, who pointed his rifle at the officer. The officer retreated down the ladder, and Crooks quickly took a shot towards Trump. And that's when Secret Service snipers shot him, said the officials who spoke with the Associated Press on, of course, condition of anonymity to discuss the ongoing investigation. So now it's reported that the backfire shot from Secret Service was about 500 yards away. The whole thing just doesn't make sense. Number one, how you let this man climb up on top of a building, how the building wasn't inspected. Every Trump rally I've been to, you have to leave the event, they sweep the area, and then they bring everyone back in. If you're media, it doesn't matter who you are, you leave the event and you come back in so they could do a secure sweep. To me, it makes absolutely no sense how a sure thumb, they're talking about, they use drone surveillance and infrared surveillance, how a man could be laying on a roof a mere 150 yards from the president, and it goes unseen.
It's almost inconceivable. I mean, like I said, this is either incredible incompetence on the part of Secret Service, and regardless of what this is, the head of the Secret Service should be fired immediately and or resign in disgrace. But there's something very fishy about this whole story that's going on. Many years ago, I was in Waikiki in Hawaii, and it just so happened President Clinton was coming back from an Asia trip and decided to give a speech in Hawaii, right below my hotel room. I guess I was about the 11th floor of the Rainbow Tower, and they had snipers everywhere on all those towers there in Waikiki. And the one we were on, me and my buddy, they allowed us to stay on our porch and watch. We were basically smoking cigars and watching from 11 stories up, but the snipers would have their big binoculars clear us, and I assume we all had top secret clearances, so they must have checked us in to make sure that we were okay. But they would still scan over us. And get this, not only did they have every kind of sniper available on every rooftop you could think of, but they had Navy SEALs just off the waters in these little gray boats. They were I could see them diving, coming up and down. Obviously they were patrolling the water so that a swimmer couldn't attack from the ocean. So I guess that's back when the Secret Service, was competent, or back when the Secret Service perhaps wasn't working for someone to make sure they weren't in the right place to do their job. So if someone else has decided to do something nefarious. So this makes no sense to me. Yeah, this could be a lone wolf. This could be a rabid dog that needed to be put down, and he wasn't put down before he could start barking and biting. But something's fishy in Denmark on this one.
We're talking with former senior NSA Intel analyst Russ TIce. When we return, we're going to get Russ's take on how we got here. Who's responsible for this? Is it Joe Biden? Is it the mainstream media? And where we go from here, how we fix this mess. I mean, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it's now the Secret Service. We're coming right back. We're talking with Russ TIce. Stay with us.
Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next.
We're back. We're talking with Russ TIce, former NSA senior intel analyst. And Russ, right before we went to break, we were talking about how we got here. How did the Secret Service become such a bad organization? The 118th Congress and James Comer have been investigating these people since the beginning of this 118th Congress for their DEI practices, for their lackadaisicalness. I mean, you had a few years ago, you had guys down in South America drunk driving. You had Kamala Harris's agents getting into fistfights. How did we stoop to such a low level? I mean, you saw some of the videos from President Trump over the weekend, and there's one in particular that you can find on the internet, and it's a female Secret Service agent who couldn't get her holster. It took about 30 seconds. She couldn't get her gun back in the holster. How did we come to such a place where we had, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, snowflakes protecting the most important person of the free world?
Well, that's a good question. After 9/11, the government decided to make the Department of Homeland Security, I call it the Department of Homeland Stupidity, and they conglomerated all kinds of agencies. I think the Coast Guard, a whole bunch of, including the Secret Service, which before I think was under the Treasury Department. And apparently, when that happened, now once the Homeland Security Department is now headed by a guy Garland, and it's not like this guy doesn't have a dog in this fight. He'll do whatever the president tells him to do, and or play along with whatever he's told to play along with. So or hire whoever he's told. If you have a certain demographic that you're required, or some kind of quota system that you got to make. I mean, you got to make sure that you have so many cross dressers and so many different, I don't know, people dressed like clowns or whatever. You got to make sure that they get hired at the Secret Service. So having someone who doesn't know how to holster a weapon, it's just unconceivable that this person could, and it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. A woman could certainly be competent enough with a weapon to be a Secret Service agent. Right. And I would think you need Secret Service agents that are females, especially when they're dealing with first ladies and that sort of stuff. What you don't need though is Secret Service agents who are protecting their own lives. I mean, let's face it, when you sign up for the military, like you did, when you sign up for Secret Service, your job is to protect who you are assigned to protect. And, it's unfortunate, but that's what comes with the job. Your job is to protect the president of the United States, and that person, male or female, comes before everything else. I want to talk about some new reporting out from Real Clear Politics. This is from a Secret Service agent who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Trump, quote, Trump has a permanent detail. However, it's much smaller in the amount of bodies. The source says his detail has been worked so hard while they were traveling. They've been working 7 days a week with shift changes. So the headquarters sends in temporary agents. Now, the report goes on to say that the reason Trump's detail was swapped out last minute was because Jill Biden was also in Pennsylvania and all resources were sent to protect her. How do you have such dismay inside of an organization, like I said, protecting the most powerful person of the free world? How do you get to this point? And I have to also think, was this contrived, this sort of a lack of coverage, to the point where you could use this as an excuse for not having coverage at a certain place at a certain time where it's critical? Gee, like that didn't happen just this weekend. So I ultimately, when I know the capability of the government. I know we do assassinate people. I know that it's all hush hush. I was involved in my aspect of potentially being support for some of these things from my business at the NSA, Now, these things are all put under a big time classification stuff, a special access program, SAPs. And of course, in my world, these were all bad people that we were going after, and they're overseas, and we're doing these machinations going after bad people. But then I saw where all of a sudden these capabilities could have started to be used against our own people. The DC madam, that was a big question in my mind. But then with the Epstein case, I knew that Epstein was a government sponsored hit. And when Epstein happened, I knew we were using our capabilities against. Now not that Epstein is a real sweetheart, but nonetheless, they had to take him down, and they did. That was a CIA operation, and it had to have support from a whole lot of people, and it had to have a whole lot of money. So I knew that we are now taking our capabilities against American citizens, and right now the government considers Donald J. Trump an existential threat to their existence. And that's ultimately why I said I have to get in touch with Trump's detail, their Secret Service folks, and or the former president himself, to warn him that maybe he needs to have his own people that he trusts. Do I trust the FBI to do an investigation in this? Oh, hell no. It's like James Earl Ray. Did James Earl Ray really shoot Martin Luther King, or was there somebody else involved? Was it the FBI that killed Martin Luther King? I kind of think maybe so. It's a little bit before my time, but having the FBI involved in this, and they're saying now people need to send in all their information. If you have anything that's worthwhile, well, I'll tell you what. Yes, send it to the FBI, but make sure you keep a copy of it, and make sure you keep it in a place, and make sure that you can get that to the press or somebody you trust, because the FBI has a history of making evidence just kind of disappear.
It's the FBI where justice goes to die. Since President Trump has entered politics, he's been impeached twice. He's been arrested, booked, mugshotted, convicted in New York, still has pending trials federally, which now look to be like they're going away after the Supreme Court's immunity. And now he survives an assassination attempt. It's truly remarkable. We're going to take a quick break here. We're talking with Russ TIce, former senior NSA analyst and whistleblower. And when we return, I want to get Russ's take on who's responsible for this. Is it Joe Biden for stoking violence against the president over the last few weeks, saying we need to put a bullseye on him, quote? Or is it the mainstream media who sat back and watched this and spewed this hate for now the last 9 years against President Trump? Why is President Trump such a threat to these people? We're going to take that up with Russ when we return. Stay with us. We're coming right back.
Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next.
We're back. We're talking with Russ TIce, former NSA senior intel analyst and whistleblower. And before we move on, Russ, I want to send our condolences to the family of the man who was killed, Corey Comparatori. He was a former fire chief in Buffalo Township in Pennsylvania. There's actually a GoFundMe up, and it'll be in the description of this episode. I believe President Trump has endorsed it, raising money for this poor bystander's family, and what they have to go through, all because he supports truth, justice, and the American way, and supports President Trump. So we encourage you to go check that out. And like I said, the link will be in the bio of this episode. Russ, I want to turn to who's responsible for this. In the last few weeks, President Biden has been stoking anger among his supporters, and things like we have to put a bullseye on President Trump, saying multiple times President Trump is a threat, a genuine threat to democracy and to this nation. Even going as far as reportedly turning down extra security for President Trump and his detail. Who's responsible for this? Is it President Biden? Is it the mainstream media? George Stephanopoulos saying over the weekend, Trump and his supporters have helped construct this violent riot type behavior. Who's to blame for this?
Well, if this is just a rabid dog who had to act, this rabid dog is basically answering the call of the dog whistle that's coming from the mainstream media and from the rhetoric from out of the mouth of President Biden himself and his henchmen. So and that's the light end of this story. The other is that of course Biden is just a puppet. He's
right.
has puppet strings. He's controlled. But if you can turn the puppet into King Richard and have him say the words, "Who will rid me of this meddlesome priest?" and then you have your knights go out and find our Archbishop Becket and you kill him on the altar. Well,
right.
Yesterday they tried to kill our patron saint on the altar at one of his rallies. When he was preaching to the faithful. So it's one or the other. But either way, this rhetoric is certainly not good for because there's just too many damn crazies out there that that will just answer the rabid dog who answers the dog whistle.
Right. And you know damn well if this has happened to any Democrat, whether it be a senator or congressman, someone would be getting impeached, someone would be heading to jail. But it seems like everything that happens, it happens in the favor of the Democrats. I mean, you have an attorney general who doesn't prosecute crimes. You have a secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, who doesn't secure the border and now has this on his back. I mean, this whole administration, it seems from the bottom up, from the top down, you can't find a straight shooter in this administration who is in favor of truth, justice, and the American way and follows the law. Trump now becomes the third attempted assassination. Obviously, 4 previous assassinations: Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, William McKinley, and JFK. And then you have Theodore Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, who's probably most comparable to President Trump. And now you have President Trump. It's just, to me, it's, I ask the question every day: when will these Democrats start caring for this country? We have a democratic process where we elect our leaders. It shouldn't be stoked with fear and violence, which, they are what they, portray the Republicans to be. They portray the Republicans to be gun waving psychopaths. But these are really the people who are living in the deep shadows who then come out and show their true selves. Like this man, President Trump, he's not stopping. Defiant. I mean, you saw as soon as he got shot, he got down and he got right back up, and he wouldn't let those Secret Service agents take him off the stage until he pumped his fist and said, we're gonna fight, And you got the mainstream media. President Trump, he gets shot, and the first thing he says is, we have to fight. Well, what do you expect a man to say who just missed a bullet by his head by millimeters that could have went through the side of his head if it wasn't for the grace of God? I mean, how sick are these people, this mainstream media, who are so complicit in violence and hate in this country? How sick are these people?
Well, what do they expect? They're like a little scared church mouse to like cower in the corner. Trump is a fighter, and ironically, I didn't vote for him the last 2 times around. I certainly didn't vote for the Democrats either. I voted for Rand Paul. I did write-ins both times. But I'm totally on the Trump team this time around because we need someone. I figure Rand Paul would save the financial situation in our country, but we're beyond that right now. We're just trying to save our republic, and the only man I can see that can do that now is President Trump. Right. And yes, he's proven himself a fighter, and remember, this is. If this was a government-sponsored, event, this will not be the only one. They will come again, but the next time they're going to probably be more subtle. If this was just a lone gunman who was, the rabid dog answering the dog whistle, then perhaps we could just beef up the the Secret Service. And I had a Biden moment there, and and fire that clown, whoever that clown is that's in charge of that, the Secret Service right now, and get them back in order. But I fear that this is not a one-off, and that this is being sponsored by some very nefarious people that have taken over our government, security services, intelligence community, and Department of Injustice and the FBI, and that they will not stop. So, right. Which is why I said, President Trump would probably need to hire some people he trusts that are just beyond, the Secret Service. And one of the things I wanted to tell the Secret Service way back when I couldn't, is to be weary of people that are not part of his normal entourage to protect him. And now you're telling me that they're cycling people in and out that his own entourage, they don't even know. So how do you trust people if they're coming in and out and you don't know who they are or whether you can trust them? Because remember, all it takes is one or two people. All it takes, if you want to throw a football game, is to bribe the quarterback. So in this case, if you can get a dirty Secret Service agent or two who plays along with the powers that be, that's part of the conspiracy, then ultimately they can succeed in their plan. So
I don't, Russ, I don't even think it takes a dirty Secret Service agent at this point. If you see how bad these people act, how they don't do their jobs. And like I said, when you're, focused on DEI, we know DEI is now, across every single organization, professional organization, government organization across America, it's not doing good for anybody. You're putting people in jobs who are unqualified. The Secret Service, what the hell is going on with these people? Like I said, President Trump, I don't think you'll find anyone more resilient than that man. There's reports out that Sunday morning after the shooting, he was up for a 9 a.m. tea time out in Bedminster. He was out golfing. Apparently had a very good round. And the president posting out on Truth Social that he was thinking about delaying the RNC 2 days just for everyone to regroup, which we now find out that, security is just the same at the RNC, they're saying. Nothing beefed up, nothing, no changes since this. But President Trump saying we cannot allow, quote, potential assassin to force change. I don't know where you find a stronger man. I don't know where you'd find a man who survives 2 impeachments, multiple criminal indictments, a criminal conviction, and now an assassination attempt, who gets up the next day and is ready to go back out there and fight for the American people. I don't know where you find that. 99% of this world, this country, I think, goes and rolls up in a ball the next day and opens their eyes and says, I don't need this. I'm a billionaire. I don't need this. What am I doing? You get the last word here, Russ.
Well, President Trump does not need to prove how tough he is. We know this man is built. He's tough as nails. So I would just beg our former president is to be careful and realize that you can't be foolhardy, and you've got to understand that this could be much worse than just a lone wolf. This could literally be the deep state who's trying to put him in the ground.
I don't think there's any doubt about that, and which is why we have you on the show. And we appreciate you reaching out to us and trying to blow the whistle on yet another thing that could have changed this country and this world. Russ TIce, you're a great American. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, everybody, for being with us today, and thanks, Russ TIce. Russ is a great American, and we appreciate him reaching out to us about 2 years ago to blow the whistle on yet another important thing in America that has come true: the assassination attempt on President Trump. What the Democrats have done to this country is disgusting, and it may be beyond repair at this point. November 5th is the day that we have to take this country back from these sick and sad people. Thanks again for being with us, and be sure to join us this entire week for the Great America Show. God bless you, God bless America, and may God bless Donald J. Trump.